So my name is Oleg Mystuk, and perhaps one thing that you need to know about myself is I'm experiencing jet lag the same way as you are experiencing probably good satisfaction from your lunch. So if at some point of time I'll become too academic, just let me know. I'll try to switch back to more reasonable and real topics than those I wanted to present to you today. So perhaps before I'll get into the introduction of what Kyiv Investment Agency is and what it does, just need to know fairly that what I wanted you to remember from this panel discussion is one new acronym, which is PPI, which is private participation in infrastructure. The thing is relevant and important to all of us because that will become one of the hot areas in the course of the next several years where the government and the local governments, including municipalities, will try to discover the extent to which it can become partners with the private sector and jointly do all the things that you will dream about having in Kyiv. And Kyiv Investment Agency, in fact, was founded something like 20-something years ago, and since then it had something like 50 employees, which were mainly engaged into the pre-development. Well, Kyiv municipality is perhaps the biggest landlord in Kyiv, and we have something like 10.5 million square meters of real estate. But at the same time, what Kyiv city has, comparing to other cities in Ukraine, is something like 5 million inhabitants. So any business activities which are related to transportation, energy saving, telecommunications, is something that perhaps Kyiv municipality shall take care of. And Kyiv Investment Agency, since the new authorities came into office roughly 2 years ago, the scope of Kyiv Investment Agency was expanded, so it became not only pre-development agency, which is good in the real estate, but also Kyiv Investment Agency became in-house investment bank, who is at least trying to set up some sophisticated structures of private-public participation in the city of Kyiv. And at the same time, we are serving as in-house investment bank trying to deal with the liability side of the Kyiv city. Last year, we were helping the city and the Ministry of Finance to get the liabilities of the city Eurobonds restructured in order to improve to enhance the creditworthiness of the city. Thus, what we were trying to achieve is to make Kyiv City once again eligible to become partner of the international financial institutions, because most of those deals we are planning in the meantime are related to the infrastructure. And comparing to the M&A activity and private-to-private deals, infrastructure is the area which requires quite cheap and long-term financing. And though it was discussed at the macro panel, we still have problems in the FX rate, we still have problems in the loan yield curve. We do have IFIs willing and ready to provide financing not only to the municipality itself, but to the private companies, private investors willing to consider Kyiv projects in order to make those projects up and running, in order to provide decent profitability because of the cheap leverage. And I hope that in the course of the next 12 to 36 months, we will see we will see several dozen of deals related to the energy efficiency, to the transportation, to the telecom, and certainly we will see at least 50, maybe 60 deals in the course of the next 12 months in the real estate sector. So up till now, we have done something like 16 deals done and dusted in the Kyiv city, which resulted in 1.8 billion hryvnia participation of the private sector's investment into the deals which Kyiv Investment Agency had thrown to the market. And those deals were mainly real estate and socially related. For example, what we were trying to do over this year and a half were private kindergartens, private schools. What we are selling right now to the investors, private hospitals. We've done some telecom deals, and perhaps you know that that is kind of our state-of-the-art thing. Only 5 or 6 cities in the world have Wi-Fi in the subway. So that was kind of complex deals we were trying to achieve, and having private sector's participation in such transactions, we're trying to achieve several goals at the same time. A, risk sharing. So instead of the regular procurement process when the city spends their money on something that they think they need, we are testing any potential deal with the market. We are checking whether IFIs and investment banks, investment houses are willing to bring private sector companies into dealing with the municipality. And in some moments and some elements, we are trying to grab the group. We're trying to grab information, we're trying to grab interest, identify interest coming from the private sector. Therefore, we have established what we call a single window interface, which is publicly available. Second floor of Kyiv municipality, which is located Khrushchev 36, where front office of Kyiv Investment Agency is publicly accessible. And you have special departments dealing with the deals, with the ideas that you guys bring into municipality. So every deal is being taken by the project manager and been tested, verified against the priorities of the Kyiv city. And if we have green lights from various departments, from various municipal enterprises who are sitting on the assets to proceed, what we are doing there in investment agency, we are trying to structure, to package those deals properly and make it available through the investment tender procedure, which we have in an open, transparent way. Initially, the period which took municipality to develop each individual deal was something like a year and a half. So bureaucrats are bureaucrats, and it was difficult to get through the bureaucracy in the Kyiv city-state administration, and usually this paperwork resulted in significant delays, and sometimes happened that the investor who originally was suggesting some ideas to the municipalities that I'd like to do business with you guys in that and that direction. In a year and a half time, you just get him disappeared. So what we addressed for the first time when we came into the office, and by the way, Kyiv Investment Agency was rebuilt completely since year 2014. So we got hired people from the private sector, those experienced project managers who are now dealing with the infrastructure, dealing with the social projects, with the medical projects, with the telecom, with the recreational, and so we have something like 7 departments at this moment of time, where we have lawyers, you have corporate finance people, and you have good, decent project managers who are running those projects through the whole municipality. So what we've done for the first time, we have brought experience of Big Four companies in order to streamline this period of maturing, of getting project mature. So instead of a year and a half, what we have now is 90 days, and the process was simplified and became much more transparent to the investors. We are setting up, and unfortunately it was not set up yet, we are setting up the investment oversight, which is basically a supervisory board over Kyiv municipality and Kyiv Investment Agency to oversee how municipality partners with the private sector people in those investments that we are tendering. So for now, we have done something like 16 deals done out of 18, which is pretty good. On the other hand, it's pretty bad, because I would rather appreciate to have 3 dozens of deals thrown into the market, and would love to see the same kind of figure done and dusted, because it means that municipality is still slow developing potential framework for private and public partnerships. And but good thing is that for year 2016 and early 2017, we have a pipeline of a couple of dozen deals in non-real estate market, which might result in an investment in fresh money coming into Kyiv municipality of over $2 billion. And guess what? Why the difference between 2014, 15, only $60–70 million done, and the plans, prospects for having a couple of $1 billion invested into the Kyiv city? The difference is the reforms that are going on in the country, and without having the gas price adjusted, without having the electricity price adjusted, we would never see, with those subsidies coming through the government, through Naftogaz, we would never see any potential for private sector participation in the energy sector, because I guess nobody will be willing to sit and wait for the mercy of the government, willing to provide subsidies in order to compensate for the differences between your operational costs and what you are actually selling with the price of that you are selling to the market. So having those normalized, having that brought to the market terms, now we see that most of the projects that we are handling right now, they have a payback period of something like 4.5 years, which is good enough already. And having those deals been backed up with the IFIs, and we are quite closely cooperating with EBRD, IFC, who was present here. We are setting up relationship and quite far advanced with the European Investment Bank, and just got back from Washington and Boston, where we had discussed a couple of potential deals, potential leads with OPIC. So I'm quite sure that with a set of quasi-sovereign guarantees, with the better improved flexibility of the budgetary process, Kyiv municipality would be able, sooner or later, get into the PPI area. And currently what we're handling is the deal set where private investor having invested money into the real estate development, for example, or energy efficiency, would expect that the revenue stream will compensate this investor fully within 3, 4, 5 years' time. But the number of deals like such are pretty limited in Kyiv, unfortunately, and I would expect that the next wave of cooperation between the public sector, municipality in particular, and private sector will be exactly private participation infrastructure, where the city could develop programs which would allow extra revenue stream coming to the investor who decided to invest in the area of municipal infrastructure, which cannot itself provide sufficient revenues backstream to the investor to compensate for the risky investment. We are at the crucial moments, and we are expecting that what was not available last year, in 2015, will become available this year. Last year, we had experienced quite significant uncertainty with regard to the public debt. The country was in the middle of default. The Kyiv city was trying to restructure its obligations, and one of the things that we have done in this direction in order to improve the relationship between the city of Kyiv and international financial organizations which might be willing to provide this missing capital, we were trying to restructure the Eurobond $550 million. But the way we have done this deal jointly with the Ministry of Finance was somewhat different from the rest of the public sector. So with the help of donors like USAID, like DFID, like EBRD, what we've done last year was the first ever annual report of the Kyiv city, which had got the consolidated financial statements and full description of the activity of the municipality. And without having this annual report done, and thanks to Pricewaterhouse, by the way, for helping us with this, we would never concur, we would never be there, and we would never be able to fix the haircut which we have achieved during the restructuring process together with Lazard. And now the city, having cleaned up its balance sheet and reduced the liability side of more than $100 million, which was something like 29% effective haircut. Now we are ready to proceed and do transactions with the private sector investors who are supposedly will be backed up by the IFIs. In regard to the last thing, perhaps, in regard to the real estate sector, Kyiv Investment Agency will be your partner if your interests lay in the area of real estate. Because what we actually do, we do the pre-development, and we are running tenders where every project was calculated, pre-approved, agreed with the various departments of the Kyiv city. So an investor coming to and bidding on the particular project will know for sure that what exactly he's bidding at. All the ingredients, all the prerequisites for the sector, including verification with the Department of Architecture, Department of Land, was done. At the same time, city is not the commercial broker. Its main idea is not only profitability of particular projects. As usually done in the public sector, there is a balance between the social needs of the city and commercial interest. So in every of those projects you see, city is trying to encapsulate, adds some social component which will make this project eligible for the society. And it's not only residential real estate, it's commercial real estate. In certain elements, this is transport infrastructure. And this point of time, we have something like 25 projects to be sold to the market till the end of the year. And for the next year, we see something like 50 projects to become available once again. One of the things that we are doing simultaneously with the real estate is, for example, just what you have seen, bike sharing. And I've seen Citibank somewhere here. Steven, you're here? No, okay. The infrastructure is not just kindergartens and schools and hospitals. Infrastructure which make the life of each of us easier is, for example, things, good things, smaller things like bike sharing. Perhaps you've seen that in other capitals and other countries, and usually we have either electric or just manual bicycles available for the inhabitants so they can ride across the city. And it's difficult to get this project implemented just purely on the commercial basis, because these projects, as practice says, they do not have profitability per se to become investable. So it has to have components like crowdfunding. It has to have a component like the major brand, which will be willing to get the city associated with such brand. And certainly the city needs to take its part and create some bicycle infrastructure, such as roads, such as these stations. But nevertheless, we are planning to roll out this project till the end of the year, and the project itself will have something like 1 million euro, and it's a pretty small one compared to the projects that usually we do. I think that it is still a good thing to have smallish projects which make your life different. And once again, I'll be glad to hear any of you who will be willing to check whether municipality will be interested in becoming a partner in your project, because other than oil and gas and perhaps agri, Kyiv City is available to you guys for any other projects that you might be thinking of. So we'll be glad to answer your questions, and sorry for the messy presentation, but just to give you a rough overview of what Kyiv Investment Agency does and how it might be helpful to your particular needs in the Kyiv City. Thanks. So open for Q&A if you like. Good. If no questions, then let me pass the floor to the next panel. Let me introduce Roman Sulzik, who will be moderating the next session on reforms and privatization, I guess.